Hello, my name is Alan Rubino. I am the CEO of RenovaCare. And I first want to express our gratitude and appreciation to Noble Capital for providing us with this forum. We will be discussing next generation cell isolation and the ultra gentle cell spray of our cell mist and our skin gun. Have the next slide. Of course, we will be making some forward-thinking statements, and the appropriate disclaimer is before you. Next slide. Today's presenters, besides myself, is Dr. Robin A. Robinson. In the last year at RenovaCare, we have significantly transformed our management team. And really, we brought an exceptional experience to blend to the existing team. And basically, it has turbocharged our efforts, and we have made great progress in 2020. Next slide. Some quick highlights about RenovaCare. RenovaCare is a biotech company. We're focused on developing first-of-our-kind autologous or self-donated stem cell therapies for the regeneration of human organs. Our flagship technology, which we'll discuss today, is our cell mist system. Also, we are currently under a conditional IDE status with the FDA for second-degree burns, and we'll be discussing more about that in detail in the presentation. Next slide. In terms of giving you a quick perspective of the company's history, just in looking at the past and the history of the company, we had early research and development. And a real highlight in this area I'd like to focus on is that we had 70 human case studies, which we're going to talk about today, which really encouraged us to move much more aggressively into the development of our program. And in the center, which is the current situation, we have now become a development stage company. We're about to embark on our clinical trial program, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about our intellectual property and how that's been advanced through the years and has continued. And we'll also talk about where we are with the regulatory situation and corporate development, which is a major part of our strategy. And if you look at the area below our technology, which we're going to spend most of our time today, we will be overviewing the electronic skin gun, disposable skin gun, our cell mist system itself, and our closed cell isolation device that is in development. Next slide. Like most companies, we have four basic strategies to really drive our long-term objectives. First, we have a diverse product portfolio. Our initial focus is burns, chronic wounds, and acute wounds, be followed by other areas as well. We also have a robust and expanding IP estate, which we'll give some detail on today as well. We have a detailed approach to the way we do capital allocation. It is very disciplined. We follow an iterative resource allocation approach to support our portfolio growth as well as financing and other corporate activities. These three items together all blend to really drive our growth strategy. This is how we will execute business growth, and this will include, besides portfolio, strategic partnerships. Next slide. As I mentioned at the outset, RenovaCare has now become a development stage company. Our focus is on next generation differentiated products. Dr. Robin Robinson will be providing you further transparency and details regarding our technology and the current status. I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Robinson at this point. Robin?
Thank you, Alan, and thank you to Noble Capital for having us here today. Part of RenovaCare's regenerative medicine mission is to develop definitive care treatment of burn wounds with our autologous skin cell therapy. Of the 1.5 million burn cases in the U.S. annually, 450,000 are second or third degree burns that require definitive burn care, and 150,000 of these required skin grafting or equivalent therapies. From ancient Egypt to early 1990s, severe burn wounds were treated with skin grafts from animals, other humans, or unburned skin tissue from the burn patient. With the ability to isolate human skin cells and grow them in tissue culture into large sheets of skin, or treat cell suspensions with cytokines or other growth factors in combination with meshes and matrices, allogeneic burn therapy emerged in the late 1990s. Then in 2010, several different investigators showed that untreated autologous skin cells from the burn patient themselves could be used as a cell therapy to facilitate burn wound healing. One group out of Germany and the U.S. ultimately became RenovaCare. And autologous skin cell therapy is now becoming a new and innovative clinical approach for the treatment of burn wounds, other acute and chronic wounds, and other dermatological conditions. RenovaCare's cell therapy answer is the Cell Mist system, using our new closed automated cell isolation device to render skin cells and stem cells from skin tissue by sequential enzymatic digestion and filtration, used in combination with our skin gun spray device for gentle topical application of these donor skin cells onto burn wounds. Next slide, please. The RenovaCare cell therapy utilizes our transformational technologies in cell biology and medical product delivery and administration in a simple 4-step process that can be done easily in a single afternoon at burn centers by burn surgeons and their staff. In the first step, the burn surgeon examines the burn wound to determine wound severity, skin layers involved, and the area of the burn wounds. For partial thickness, second-degree burns, the burn surgeon removes a small, unaffected skin tissue from the patient, say the thigh, with a dermatome depending on the size of the burn wound. For example, donor skin the size of a silver dollar is harvested for burn wounds the size of a medium-sized pizza. The next step, the harvested skin is inserted into our cell isolation device by a lab technician. Over the next 90 minutes, using our Cell Mist system, the skin tissue is digested sequentially with our enzymes that separate the epidermal and dermal layers and release skin cells and pluripotent stem cells from each skin layer, a major difference from other cell therapies for burn wounds. These cells are separated subsequently from tissue debris by filtration, and the final cell suspension in the cell isolation device is then loaded into a syringe. In the third step, the technician then verifies the cell viability, which is always really high, and cell abundance, which is usually very large, with great yields, and then inserts the cells into the syringe using our skin gun spray device. In the last step, the burn surgeon sprays the cells topically from the skin gun spray device onto the burn wound as a fine, gentle mist of single-cell droplets over the entire wound area. The cells adhere rapidly to the wound without any dripping, allowing standard burn dressings to be applied. The whole procedure in less than 3 hours. Okay, next slide, please. In 71 investigator-initiated clinical case studies in Germany and the United States from 2010 to 2018, the RenovaCare Cell Mist system and skin gun spray device were used to treat second and third degree partial and full thickness burn wounds from many different types of burns, from scalds to even chemical burns. The bottom line results showed that our cell therapy afforded one, complete wound closure in several days. Second, 100% reepithelialization of burn wounds in days. Third, the new smooth skin without scarring at the wound seams. Fourth, less pain after the procedure. Next, full restoration of burned skin function and restoration of skin appearance similar to that prior to the burn incident. And primarily, discharge from the hospital occurred in 6 to 10 days as opposed to weeks. And lastly, no further treatments were needed. Okay, next slide, please. One of the remarkable results from these studies was that donor skin tissue, only 1/100th of the size of the burn wound, was needed to heal these burn wounds. This compares strikingly better to standard skin grafting. And the coverage property of our Cell Mist system and skin gun spray device will allow us to treat burns that comprise at least 30% total body surface area, as compared to other cell therapies that may only cover up to 20% total body surface area. Next slide, please. Today, as Alan said, we have 4 products. First, the skin cell therapy about to undergo a controlled clinical study this first quarter of 2021. And that will evaluate the safety and feasibility in adults with second-degree partial thickness burn wounds at 4 U.S. sites. The results will inform other clinical studies, including a pivotal efficacy clinical trial planned to start in late 2023 towards supporting a PMA submission in 2024 and U.S. commercial market in 2025. Secondly, we will submit this year a 510K application for our electronic skin gun spray device in the second panel as a standalone product to administer topically medical solutions. Third, the third panel, we will submit next year a 510K application for our disposable portable skin gun spray device as a standalone device for our outpatient and also field use, maybe even in the military. Fourth is we will submit next year a 510K for our cell isolation device that's closed and automated to render cells from many different tissues and usages in clinical conditions. Next slide, please. One of the key characteristics that separates our cell mist system and skin gun spray device apart from other wound cell therapies is the isolation of skin cells and stem cells from both the epidermal and dermal layers of the skin as single cells and not tissue clumps. Our skin gun disperses these cells gently onto the burn wounds to provide a single layer of cells, not tissue clumps, that rapidly adhere to the wound. And these sprayed cells begin signaling to other donor skin cells and cells on the periphery of the wound to start proliferating and commence reepithelialization in a coordinated and integrated manner to rapidly render a new, smooth, and durable epithelial skin surface. With that, let me turn it back over to Alan. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Next slide, please. I'd like to talk a little bit about the RenovaCare R&D Innovation Center with our partner, Stem Cell Systems in Germany. I want to describe our R&D continuum because I think it's unique and important. In the U.S., Dr. Robinson oversees a sophisticated R&D organization with clinical, regulatory, quality, and also manufacturing. Also, he works with Stem Cell Systems in Germany, our strategic partner, and they add additional dimension and depth and other synergies, including cell biology and device expertise, and of course, cell automation and isolation. Next slide, please. Give you a little more detail on this. Basically, RenovaCare with Stem Cell Systems is basically a standalone, fully integrated autologous cell spray business unit, if you will. And there we've recently added, you can see this, the skills and capabilities we have, bioengineering. We have enhanced the cell biology area. The entire organization, particularly in Germany, has become much more regulatory centric. And of course, we have 9 dedicated professionals full-time to us. As you can see, they're physicians, PhDs, engineers, and biomedical engineers. Basically, the Stem Cell Systems, and I'm featuring it here and accenting it because it's illustrative of major partnerships. It's a very important part of our business model, and it's a core competency of the company. And I want to now discuss and ask Robin to overview some of the additional partnerships that we have that comprise our efforts. And Robin, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Alan. Pharmaceutical and biotech product development is a team sport, as we all know, and is supported by both internal and external partners. And here at RenovaCare, we're happy to integrate the efforts of multiple partners across research and development, manufacturing, clinical studies, and regulatory submissions. And these include, as from the far left, as Alan was saying, Stem Cell Systems in Berlin, Germany, for device R&D and pilot-scale device manufacturing. Under regulatory, MICRA in Washington, D.C. provides regulatory affairs and medical writing assistance to us. With manufacturing, we have Roche in Germany for production of our cGMP enzymes, and Berkshire Sterile Manufacturing in Lee, Massachusetts for fill-finish manufacturing of these enzymes into vials. And then we have Protec Design and Manufacturing in California for aseptic packaging of our clinical supplies, including the skin gun heads and the other devices. And then we have Charles Rivers Laboratory in Malvern, Pennsylvania for biological testing of our clinical samples. And last but not least, under the clinical realm, we have Advanced Clinical from Elk Ridge, Illinois, for primary clinical study execution of these burn studies. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Alan.
Thank you, Robin. Slide. I want to just touch upon our IP. IP, like most companies, is the lifeblood. And we have well-protected innovations, and basically we've designed our IP around seizing competitive edge. Next slide, please. Basically, in expanding our intellectual property, we have followed a steady continuum of patent development and broadening our estate. And if you look across this continuum, I won't go through every one of these items, but you can see this is not something new. We've been working at it for quite some time, along with our stem cell systems partners. But you see the approvals of the electronic skin gun, the patents of that, the disposable skin gun. We're moving towards the closed cell isolation system. I think the really important highlight on this slide is that what you see in the box, that we have patent protection that extends out to 2037. So basically, we have a really solid patent portfolio, and we've already been very successful in defending this patent portfolio. And we have 8 patent families, and we have good global protections as well. There's obviously a lot more detail, but just as a sum, you see an overview of our IP estate. In the next slide, one slide back, please. Okay. I'm sorry, please proceed again. Next slide. I want to take a look at our discipline pathway and our approach to world-class management. Next slide. I just thought to give an opportunity or a snapshot of our listeners and our viewers at the market and market size. First of all, you can see to the left, if we look at the current market, you have burns and the severe second-degree burn, 200 to 300 million. As you expand to the outpatient market in pediatric scalding burns, you approximate $1 billion market just in the burn settings alone. And then as you go further to the right, select wound areas and dermatologic and gene therapy add another $1 billion. So no question is unmet medical need and significant commercial potential to the realm of around $2 billion is what we would target as prime area for our technology. Next slide. Just looking at our milestones in 2020 and 2021 in goals. First of all, as Robin said earlier, we are about to pursue our clinical trial in 4 major U.S. burn centers in the first quarter of this year. And in the center, talking about our regulatory priorities, back in July of 2020, we had our IDE submission to the FDA. In August of 2020, we received a conditional approval of that IDE. And we expect the FDA's final approval of our IDE in the first quarter of this year. And as Robert also mentioned, mid-year, in the first half of 2021, we are going to have a 510 submission on our electronic skin gun. As far as our corporate development activities, as you can read these to the right, in addition to hiring talent, which I'll speak to in a few minutes, we have expanded our portfolio through multiple collaborative partnerships, and some we've outlined here, in strategic alliance activities that we are currently pursuing. Next slide. Everyone wants to believe, and they should, that you have a very good and sound leadership team. But what looks here like just an org chart is a little more than that. Let me explain. We have expertise in regenerative medicine, biomedical devices, and also in the burn and wound area. The people on these slides have impressive CVs, but more importantly, they have great applied experience. I'd ask you to view this organization less as an org chart, a little bit more as an orchestra. And what I mean by that is that the people in this area represent different part of the orchestra. Let's call them ensembles. We have people that are experts on enzymes, devices, clinical, regulatory, and the like. And all of this is orchestrated by Dr. Robinson and others to play as a concert. That's what we mean by fully integrated capabilities. And everything you see across the bottom line are core competencies of the company, and this is what's driving the company and its development forward. Okay, on the next slide. Just as we continue to build on success and focus on results, I'd like to give you a little bit of our financial highlights, if I could have the next slide. The company currently has a market cap of around $266 million. That's based of January 5th of this year. We have 86 million outstanding shares and approximately 18.1 million outstanding warrants and options. We have 8.7 million in cash currently on hand. We have about 8.6 million in shareholder equity. About another 3.5 million is the cash that we've used in operations over the last 9 months. So we have a very efficient organization, and we have adequate funds to continue for quite some time. Next slide. Again, just summarizing quickly, RenovaCare, we are focused. We are a growing company that's very disciplined, and we believe very tested and proven. So we have a focused portfolio as outlined before. We have cutting-edge stem cell spray therapies and differentiated therapies at that. There's multiple growth drivers. We have a robust and ever-expanding IP estate, and we do have a demonstrated track record in partnerships, both in strategic commercial partnerships as well as development that we are certainly exploiting here. And we do have a disciplined capital structure, and as I mentioned earlier, with an outstanding and world-class management team. At this point, this concludes our formal presentation, and we are more than open to discussion of Q&A and anything else. So thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Robin, for your presentation and the quick, great overview on the company. So my first question is just to have an understanding of the technology. Is it an allogenic or an autologous treatment? Are you taking patients' own cells and give it back to them? Is it off-shelf?
It's autologous primarily right now, and I'll let Dr. Robinson speak to that a little further. Robin?
Yeah, thank you, Alan. And yes, as we said earlier, it's an autologous cell therapy using the skin cells from the patient to be used themselves. By principle, we actually have done that because we actually can use the cells without treating them, and within an afternoon or a morning, the procedure can be done, and in a week or a little over a week, the patient can be discharged. It actually has been proven now to be a more than just worthwhile approach. It actually is going to be the way that burn wounds and other kinds of wounds will be treated going into the next decade.
That's helpful. My second question will be on the competitive landscape. Who would be your closest competitors and how do you differentiate from them?
Okay, I think the closest competitor is Avita. Avita has an excellent product, RECELL. RECELL came on the market about 2 to 3 years ago, max, in the burn area. They have a similar technology. It's autologous stem cell. They use a single enzyme separation system in how they develop their cells for application. Ours will differ. Ours is a triple enzyme system. They also have an applicator, basically a syringe, for how they deliver that onto the burn or the wound. And while that, I guess, certainly adequately is able to do that, we have a totally different mechanism. We have a skin gun, and it's very much been under development for over 10 years. It's a highly precision spray that is very delicate in the way that it handles the cells. And if you've seen a car sprayed as you paint, that's the way it comes on. And obviously, we hope as we finish trials over time that the cells that we produce and the way they deliver them will be very robust cells that will last longer and be stronger and heal faster. So we don't have anything disparaging to say about that. We feel that it's an excellent first generation approach, both their own version of a cell solution and their delivery. But I think we will have significant enhancements both in our cell mist solution as well as our skin gun, our disposable and electronic skin gun, I think are major advances in the area.
Thanks, Alex.
I'd like to amplify on that just if I could. One other area I talked about, and that is the burn coverage that is afforded by our cell mist system, which allows you to use a 1:100th ratio of the donor skin to the burn wound. And that is substantially more, certainly, than skin grafts, but also more than the labeled indication for the RECELL product from Avita. And so we were able to treat much larger burn wounds and use one set of one kit, basically, to be able to process cells to treat much larger areas of burns.
Thank you for the extra information, Robin. So next question is, we know you have over 8 million cash currently. We received a question regarding your cash burn, or how sufficient is your cash currently? How long it will take you?
Yeah, we have a good runway of cash. We're not a going concern. I think we're fine for about at least 15 months, but certainly we will be looking to finance the company in the near future because we always want to make sure that we have more than enough cash to fund our activities. But we also know that we will have more than adequate to support our feasibility trial that I alluded to earlier and Robin spoke to. That will start sometime in this quarter.
And Alan, is the Nasdaq uplisting one of the strategies you plan to do? If so, what would be the timeline on that?
I probably wouldn't give it a time frame right now, but in any financing, we would certainly entertain the opportunity for an uplisting as well.
I guess I would like to close with highlighting what would be the value generating catalyst for the company. What should we look for in the next 12 to 18 months of timeline?
Well, I think certainly getting the formal IDE approval by the FDA early this year, starting our clinical trials in the first quarter as well, and further in the year, submitting our 510K for the electronic skin gun. I think, and a potential, also look at financing down the road. So I think those would be the most important events that we foresee in the immediate 12 to 18 months.
Thank you very much. We much appreciate your time and participation to our conference. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate the forum very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you, you too.